I'm sure you've used ChatGPT. I mean, who hasn't? But do you know you can use ChatGPT like prompt right within a formula in Excel? There is a new formula called Labs.Generative AI in Excel that allows you to use the prompts within a formula in a cell and then gives you the result right there in the cell. It's pretty amazing and you can do some really cool stuff with it. And I'm not talking about some basic stuff such as give me a birthday wish or write me a poem. I'm talking about some serious data cleaning and data extraction stuff that you can do with it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to get that function in your Excel and then a couple of examples where it can actually be quite useful. So let's get started. Let me start by first telling you how to get this new function in Excel. So the function's name is labs.generative.ai and you would not have this function by default in your Excel. So to get this function, you need to install an add-in called Excel Labs. So if I go to the home tab here and I have this add-ins option, I would click on this and here I'm going to click on more add-ins. And in that Office add-ins dialog box, I'm going to search for Labs and hit enter, and then this is the add-in that I want to install. Now I've already added this add-in, so you would see that in my home tab I already have this Excel Labs icon, and when I click on this it is going to show me some options where I can get this function. Now if you do not have this option called add-ins, then you will not be able to get this function. So you need this add-in and the Excel Labs add-in to be able to get this new function in your worksheet. Now, if I click on this Excel Labs option, you will see it opens this pane where I have these new features. Now, these are new experimental features that are being tested by Microsoft. And once they have enough data and once they have refined them enough, they are going to release them as regular functions or regular features in Excel. So you can see here is this function called labs.generative.ai. Now this may not be the name of the function when it is finally released as a regular function, but as of now the name is labs.generative.ai. So here I'm going to click on open, and when I do that it opens this function here where I can configure this function. Now you cannot just use this function as is in Excel. To use this function, you will have to connect this function with OpenAI servers. And this is important because whenever you use this function and you enter any prompt, this function is going to first send your prompt to the OpenAI servers, and then your prompt would then be used there. The text would be generated based on the prompt, and then that text would be brought back into the cell where you have used this function. So now first thing I will show you is how to configure the API key. Now this is very simple. When you click on this, you would have this option open API key. Now I've already entered the key, but you will have to get the open API key, and you can get it by clicking on this option here. So when I click on it, it is going to open a website that is going to be platform.openai.com. Now I've already created an account here, but if you have not created an account, then you would see a window where you can create an account and then log in. Once you have logged in, the first thing you need to do is you need to put some money in this account. So you can see here, as of now, I have $6.91, and you can start with as low as $5. But if you do not have any money in this account, you will not be able to use this function because this function is not free. You are using an AI service, and to use that AI service, you need to pay some amount, but it's very cheap. So you will see if I show you even hundreds of examples, it would not even consume $1. So it's very cheap, but you will have to start by putting some money here. When you have put, let's say $5 here, you can go back to settings and then click on API keys, and then you create a new secret key. And when you create it, it is going to show you that open API key that you can copy. Once you have created the key, you will not be able to see it again. So if you want to reuse that key in some other software or in some other places, then it is a good idea to copy it and put it somewhere in your system that you can reuse. But if you've used it once, then you will not be able to see that API key again. So create this secret key, go back to Excel, and when you put this open API key here, then you will be able to use the function. Now, before you even start using the function, there are a couple of settings I want to quickly tell you about, and then I will show you a couple of examples of using this function. So here in the settings option, let me quickly tell you what is happening. Here, there are different models that you can use. As of now, there is GPT 3.5 Turbo, GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K, and GPT-4. Now, these are slightly older models, and GPT-4 is a newer model, and you can see it says highly capable in a variety of tasks. But GPT-4 is slightly more expensive than GPT 3.5 Turbo and Turbo 16K. So if you're trying it for the very first time, I recommend you go with GPT 3.5 Turbo. This is also the default model that Microsoft has selected. So if I come here, I click on restore default. These are the settings that Microsoft has given me, which is the model is GPT 3.5 Turbo. And I recommend you start on with this. Then you have the temperature setting, and the temperature setting controls the randomness of the results that you get from this formula or the prompt. So if you set this value to 0, then your model is going to be very deterministic, which means that the creativity is going to be very low, and it is going to give you the same kind of answer for the same kind of prompt. So if you ask it something, you will get the same kind of answer again and again. As you increase this value, your model becomes a little more creative. So here, as of now, the value is 0.5, which is good for our purpose. But if I increase this value to, let's say, 2 or 1.9 or 2 or more than 1, then my model will start hallucinating. It would be like talking to a drunk person, because then your model will start giving you answers which are not really very meaningful, and it would even start giving you some gibberish stuff, or even some characters you don't recognize, or some answers in some other language. So definitely keep this value below 0.8, maybe even 0.7. For the purpose of this demo, I would keep it at 0.5. So I would keep it at the default setting. You can also experiment with values below 0.5 and see what gives you a better result. Maximum output length is 256, which is somewhere around 200 words. This is good for me, but if you want to increase the output length, you can try and increase this value here. I will keep it as is. And these two values help you keep your model less repetitive. So if there is more repetition, these values would make sure that the repetition is less. And finally, we have this setting where moderation is enabled. And this is a default setting where OpenAI does not want you to generate something which could be harmful or offensive. So this is already on. But sometimes I've noticed that this also leads to errors in the formula. So sometimes it would give me the value error. So just to avoid that, I would uncheck this and save the settings. But you can again experiment with all these settings, different settings. So let me save these settings. And now let me go back into Excel and show you how this works. So here I have labs.generative.ai, and then this function takes 4 arguments. The first one is the prompt, which is necessary because only then it will know what result to give you. And then there are 3 more settings: the temperature setting, maximum tokens, and model. Now we have already seen this, but in case you want to try out another model which is different than the default settings, then you can specify that here. In this video, I would stick with the default settings that we already have. So now that we have the function, let's see a couple of examples on how to use this in Excel. Let's start with a very simple example where I have these 2 prompts where I want to write a poem about Excel and a short story about Excel. And I know this is not very useful, and when you're working with Excel, you're actually working with data, so you're not actually trying to write a poem or a short story. But let me first show you how the function works, and then I will move on to more useful examples. So to use this prompt, I would simply come here and say labs.generative.ai, and then in prompt, I'm going to select this cell and then hit enter. And when I do that, the function is now connecting the servers of OpenAI. It would then use my prompt, generate text, and bring it back in the cell. So you can see in the cell, I have this poem where it says rows and columns, neat and straight. In Excel, we calculate and create formulas and functions, cells that talk, organizing data like a well-oiled clock, and all this. And I can copy this just like any other regular function, and it is going to give me a short story as well. So now again, it is connecting the OpenAI server, and then it is bringing back the short story here in this cell. And you can see, you can go through this short story. So I'm not going to read the entire thing for you, but you understand how it works. Whenever I'm using this function, it connects the function with the servers and then brings back the data. Now, one thing that is important to know here is that in this function, when I use it, it goes to the OpenAI server that has been trained on millions of data points. So when I ask it to write a poem about Excel, it already has some knowledge about what is Excel and how to write a poem. So it combines both of these things and then generates something using that training data. And similarly, when I ask it to write a short story about Excel, it knows how to write short stories about Excel and what is a funny twist, and it combines all that knowledge to bring me this. And similarly, here is another similar example where I wanted to write a 4-line funny poem about Excel, and I also wanted to use the reference about that country. So I have the prompt here in the comments. So let me quickly copy the prompt because I don't want to waste time typing the prompt again and again. But this is the prompt that I have where I'm asking it to write a 4-line funny poem about Excel Also make it specific to the country, which is US in this case, and can you add more cultural references. And now when I hit enter, it is going to write a poem which is about Excel and US. So you can see it has given me this poem, and I can drag this down for all these. So now it is going to write a poem about Excel, a funny poem, which will be about Canada or India and so on. So you can read through it. If I read this one, in the land of stars and stripes, Excel shines bright, formulas and functions, a true American delight. From coast to coast, data never sleeps. In spreadsheets we trust as the right, white and blue leaps. So this is something that writes about Excel, but it also references something about the country that I mentioned. So now you understand that this is how you can use this function in Excel to generate text. But as I said, this is using these prompts to generate something. But when you're working with Excel, you're not looking to generate data, but rather you are looking to work with the data that you already have. So if you have something, you probably want to clean your data or extract something from your data. So let me show you a few examples that are more useful than just writing a funny poem or a short story. So let me start with this example where I have these month names in short form, and I want to get the full month name. Now I can manually type this and then try and use flash fill. And if you use flash fill, you know that it takes the data that I've already entered as the training data set and then tries and repeats the pattern and give me the result in the entire column. So I can just enter January in this column, in this cell, come here to the next cell, and then I can use the keyboard shortcut Control E. So hold the Control key and press the E key, and it is going to fill the entire column using flash fill. Now obviously this is incorrect. This is February and Marwari, which is incorrect because as of now, flash fill just tries to identify the pattern here and repeats it. And here the pattern it identified is just give the first 3 alphabets as is and then use UARY, which obviously is incorrect. Now, if I try and use any other feature in Excel to get the month name, it might be very difficult, but this can easily be done with AI because AI already has a knowledge of its own. It has a small brain of its own where it has been trained on millions of data points. So it would be able to give me the name of the data. So here, if I enter this formula, which is labs.generative.ai, and then my prompt is give me the one word month name for this cell value, which is JAN, Jan. And now when I hit enter, it gives me the right result and I can copy it for all these cells. And you can see this has worked. Now, one thing you need to know when using AI is that while it is helpful, AI may not always follow your instructions exactly as you give it. So here I asked to give me one word month name, but you can see in June it has also given me a full stop. Now this is not really a big problem in this case because I at least finally get the month name, and this is the full stop is something I can quickly get rid of. But be aware that when you're using AI, there is going to be some level of unpredictability in the results. So it is possible that it may not always give you the right result. So just keep that in mind. Do not look for 100% precision, but if you are working with this kind of data set, you can be sure that it would be able to follow simple commands easily. So this works. Another thing I want you to know is that when I'm using AI in this cell, then it is completely independent of the prompt in this cell. So this prompt, when I use this formula here, it goes to OpenAI servers, generate the result, gives it back to me here. But then when I copy it for this cell, another API call is made and it has no idea what is going in the cell above or below. So these are all independent API calls, which means that if this has worked on a smaller data set, there's a good chance that it would also work on a larger data set. But as I said, be cautious when you're working with AI. Just remember that AI may not always give you the right result, just like flash fill. One more thing you need to know is that your formula results are completely dynamic. So if I come here and I change this, then this result will automatically update. So for example, if I come here and I enter DEC here, then this would automatically update and give me the new result. So when you're using AI and you are doing changes, it is always a good idea to convert the formula results into values, because you do not want these formulas to refresh again and again, because every time these formulas are refreshed, it will cost you some money because you have already put your API key, and then API key, whenever it is used, it will cost you a few cents. Now let me show you another example. So here I have this data where I have these sentences and I have some names in here. So you will see every sentence has a name, but this is inconsistent data set. So if I want to extract only the first and the last name from this data set, and I ask you to create a formula to do this or Power Query to do this, then this is going to be very difficult because this is not consistent data. And even if you are able to come up with a formula, it may not always work because I can change a few patterns and your formula may not be able to cater to that situation and it may fail. But because AI has some knowledge and a small brain of its own, it understands these kind of sentences. So for example, it understands how the sentence is structured, what are the parts that cannot be a name and what is something that can actually be a name in the sentence. So in this case, let me show you the prompt that I have. So I have it in the comment here and I will give you this example file so you can try it out on your own. But I'm going to use this formula here, which is, let me show you in the formula bar, which is give me just the first and the last name from this cell. Just give me the first and last name as output, nothing else. For example, Sumit Bansal. Now what I've done here in this case is I've given it the prompt, which is give me the first and the last name from this cell, but I've reiterated the prompt because AI may not sometimes completely understand what you're asking or may not stick to what you're asking it. So it's always a good idea to reiterate and give examples. And in this case, I've given the example as, for example, Sumit Bansal. Now, it's always a good idea to give as many examples as you can because then AI has a reference point where it would try and give you similar kind of results. So let's see what it gives us. I would hit enter. It gives me the right result in this case. And if I copy it for all these cells here, you can see it has worked beautifully. So here it gives me William Jones, which is fine. Here it gives me Gary Stone, Robert Smith and everything. So you can see this formula has worked fine. So now this has made AI a little more useful for us because this is the kind of data set where the formula wouldn't work, where Power Query wouldn't work, but AI has worked. So one area where I think AI can be useful is when you need to extract data from unstructured data set. Now let me show you another example where I have these addresses and I want to extract the city name, state name and house number from these addresses. Now let me show you how to extract the city name. So let me copy this formula and the formula here is give me the city name from this cell. Just give me the city name as output, nothing else. For example, Chicago. So a similar thing that we did in the previous example, and this worked similarly because I'm trying to extract part of this address. Now AI has been trained on a lot of data points, so it would already know what is a city. So in these cases, it has some idea of what a city would be. So now if I hit enter, it should be able to easily extract the city name and I can copy it for all these cells. And you can see it has been able to work nicely. It has been able to extract the city name very easily. Now let's have a look at the state name, and the state name is slightly different because in this case, you would notice that sometimes I have the state name as just the two-letter code, so OR or PA, and sometimes I have state, which is the full state name. So now if I come here and I use this formula, which is again the same formula, give me the state name and I give an example, and now when I hit enter, it is extracting Oregon for here. And now if I copy it for all these cells, you can see it has worked beautifully. Now one important thing to note here is because AI has a training data of its own, it identified that OR is Oregon. So not only did it extract the state data for me, it also made it consistent. So for example, OR became Oregon, Ohio was just as is, IL became Illinois, and all of these state names. So not only was AI able to extract data, but it was also smart enough to make it consistent. So again, some area where AI can be useful. Now, let's look at house number. So in this case, house number again is a little different because not every cell has a house number. This has it, but this does not. Oh, actually, this has it, this does not, this does not. And also it is not consistent. Another thing with numbers is that unlike city or state name, where AI already has the training of what can be a city name and what can be a state name, a house number is very vague. It could be zip code as well. It could be just a number. It could be anything. So AI has to be smart enough to realize that the starting of this address is going to be the house number and extract the entire number. So let's see if it works or not. And I have this prompt here. And just to let you know, I'm doing this live on the fly, which means that I have no idea what AI is going to return. But so far AI has been playing nice, but there is always a possibility that AI may give me result which is not consistent or not what I expect. So just be mindful of that. Now let me use this formula. This formula is slightly different, where my prompt is give me the house number from this cell. Just give me the house number as output, nothing else. Then I give an example. But I also say if there is no house number, just say no. And now when I hit enter, it gives me this value here, and now I can drag it down for all these cells, and you can see it has worked, because in this case there is no house number in this address, and here also there is no house number, but in all the other remaining cells there are house numbers. So you can see AI is smart enough to identify where the house number is and extract it. At the same time, what I've been able to do is I've been able to create a conditional statement where if there is a house number, give me that house number. But if there is no house number, give me no. So I've created kind of an if statement in this case. Now, let me also show you something interesting that I found out by accident. If I go back to Excel Labs here in this add-in, and I change the model. So as of now, my model is GPT 3.5 Turbo, and I change it to GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K, which OpenAI says is similar or even better than 3.5 Turbo. See what happens. I would save the settings. But now if I remove these house numbers, so now my model has been changed, and I come here and I run this formula, it is now going to be using the new model that I've selected, which is GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K. So now when I hit enter, it gives me this result, which is right. And if I drag this down, you'll see that it gives me wrong result. In this case, it gives me no, which means it was not able to identify the house number, but there is a house number. Same is the case with this cell here. It is not able to identify the house number. Now, I don't know why, but there is this difference in these models. And when you're working with it, just also experiment with different models. There is a possibility that one model may work better for your kind of data set. Also, GPT-4 is likely to give you better results because it has been trained on a much larger data set. But as I said, be cautious when using GPT-4 because it is more expensive than GPT 3.5. Now let me show you another example where I have these airport reviews and I want to quickly analyze these reviews and get the sentiment. So this is a classic example where AI is usually used with text data because AI is really good as a large language model. So a large language model has been trained on the text data and it can work really well with text data. So here I have these airport reviews. I think these are airport reviews of Sofia, Bulgaria, I think, where I was recently there for an Excel conference, or some other airport. I don't remember completely. But the idea here is to quickly go through these reviews and extract the sentiment as positive, negative, or neutral. So what I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to use this formula, and I also want to show you something different here. So let me use this formula where this formula says analyze the feedback and give me whether the feedback is positive, negative, or neutral. Just give me one word, positive, negative, or neutral. Don't give me more than one word. So you can see I have the prompt, then I reiterated the prompt, and then I reiterated it again. But at the same time, and then here I have referenced this cell, and I have used this model GPT-4. So I have not specified the temperature and token setting, but I have specified the model as GPT-4 because I wanted to show you how to use another model if you want to. So you can just type GPT-4 in double quotes, which is the name of the model. As I mentioned, GPT-4 is going to be better than in analyzing text data, but it is going to be slightly more expensive as well. So now when I hit enter, this is an Excel table. So I will get the result in all the cells in the column, and you can see it has given me these sentiments. Now you can go through these sentiments and see if these are right or not. But the idea here is that AI will be able to quickly go through and summarize large amount of text data. And in this case, I was able to quickly get the sentiment. So this data, which is not quantifiable, has now been converted into these words called negative or positive or neutral that can actually be counted and be quantified. Similarly, here I have this formula where what I want to do is I want to quickly analyze where this review talks about baggage or bags or not. So now if I use this formula, and the formula here is, does the following review mentions anything about this header, which is bags or baggage? If it does, just give me yes, and if it does not, give me no. And then I've reiterated it again. Make sure the review specifically mentions about bags and baggage, and I'm using GPT-4 model. And now when I hit enter, Ideally, I expect yes or no answers. Sometimes it would give me something little more than yes and no. Maybe it would say yes, the review mentions about bags and baggage, or it may say no, it doesn't mention anything about bags and baggage. But an important thing to know here is when I ask this formula to use bags and baggage as the word to look for in the review, it's not really looking for the exact word. It's looking for anything that is related to this. For example, if the review mentions anything about hand baggage, or it mentions anything about luggage or maybe suitcase, then this should become yes. I can maybe try this. So maybe I can come here and I can say suitcase, hand bag, and see if this becomes yes or no. And you can see this has become yes, which means that this actually mentions something about bags or baggage, despite the fact that I've not actually used the word bags or baggage. And similarly, you can apply the same thing for all these columns if you want. So let me quickly do this. And now you can see quickly with completely textual data, I have been able to create something using labs.generative AI that I can quantify. I can count the sentiment using positive or negative. I can count the bags, whether the review mentions anything about bags or not. So I can count how many reviews has the word yes and how many has the word no. Similarly, I can talk about whether the reviews are talking about toilets and facilities or staff or transit or not. So these are some of the examples I wanted to show you. I've been playing with this formula for a few weeks now, and I think there are some areas where it can actually be used and it can actually be useful. So if you have not played with this formula, get the Excel Labs add-in, try this formula, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Also, if you're liking these videos, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and click on the bell icon so that you never miss out on any new Excel tips video I come up with. Thank you and have a nice day.